That Dom screaming Nimbus moment has to be one of my favorite moments of all time. I cannot believe that they managed to get back on stage. They were like, I'm barely just turning around, and then they got knocked off again, and then it fell back on stage again. I mean, they get down eventually, but that was hilarious. We had so many good moments yesterday, and I think Harbor City's been a big reason why we've seen a lot of good moments. I don't know why. I know that like the choke point can be really annoying there, but we just always get hype moments on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is an FPS, and I never really thought that you would really have to learn how to like edge guard, but you know, it looks like you actually have to when you're facing off against a Dom using a screaming Nimbus right there on the edge. It was absolute insanity.
Yeah, we saw a few other moments too where like the Screaming Nimbus got started up and then got knocked into that middle pit, and then we saw a few unfortunate falls otherwise. So there's definitely a lot of stage hazard deaths, you could say, over the course of yesterday. But we'll see if the teams decide to pick the same maps overall. Like we said, you know, Quarry and Harbor City being the two most popular maps is a little bit, I mean, very different, but a little bit interesting. You know, I don't know what necessarily changed to make them kind of like the go-tos as far as today goes, but we of course did see some really great sniper play. We got to see in those highlights on Mono, Fuerte. We got to see actually Enders I don't think was in those highlights, but Enders another amazing you know, kind of like, we see a lot of the flexes that either play like Pale Rider or Gym Sniper, and there were quite a few of them that were really strong yesterday, and I think maybe those teams were really confident and decided to go with some of the longer range maps, like for example Harbor City, and that gave some awesome moments. Like we got to see, of course, that even not on Harbor City, right in Underground Command Center, we got to see the pop off from a Mono just getting like 5 headshots in a row, just unbelievably good aim. But we're gonna have a chance to see some other amazing shots today. Of course, we can talk about our first matchup of the day. That is going to be Team Mafty, which is we mentioned earlier a little bit of a combination of Powerpuff Girls that was doing quite well in our previous tournaments, and of Gundam Unicorn and some other players. So they're a team that did really well in the official Gundam Evolution tournament very recently, and a lot of players that we just really enjoy watching. They were just super dominant over yesterday, but so were their opponents' IQ.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to call like who's really going to win that one out, and it's unfortunate that in the winners finals that it's only going to be a best of 3, right? We only have our best of 5 for our grand finals, because I feel like that's one that we want to explore a little bit more. But of course, because this is double elimination, there's a 100 like there's a what 50% chance that we'll have that rematch regardless, and so it'll be kind of like a quasi best of 5, best of 7 in that regard if it happens.
Yeah, and with just all the teams that we have, of course, we got to talk about being in the, you know, the losers bracket as well. There's Team Tekka Dynasty, which is a mostly remade version of the Team Tekka that we saw also in previous tournaments. So, you know, some of the same players that we've seen, but only about 2 of them that were on Tekka previously. There are about 4 new players on that team, and they've been working together extremely well. They went down to losers bracket, fought through so many tough opponents, and they are for sure here for blood. And then, of course, waiting also in the upper winners finals. I talked about IQ, but just to talk about them a little bit more, they are also, you know, a group of a lot of players that we've seen before. We got tricked by Mr. Big Large, who is, of course, Sunglasses, who's done very well in these tournaments before, too. We've got some of the players like, I mean, there's just so many. But that's kind of, again, I mentioned the story of today is that there's so many players that you could just say, oh, yeah, this person has been on 2 or 3 different teams, and they've done really well on those, and now they're doing well in another team. And it's like, yeah, that's just how the pool of talent goes here.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that like because of the shifts, but also because of the changing of the meta overall in terms of compositions, that it seems like, you know, all of our 3 teams kind of have their own separate identity, right? When we were looking at Tekka Dynasty yesterday, we were really surprised by that Barbados pick, and I don't know if you were expecting it. I definitely wasn't to really see that Barbados pop off for Gasman, but that has kind of become like the core staple, I would say, for their identity for me. So I'm really looking forward to that, seeing their Exia Barbados, that double brawler play again coming out from them. We're also seeing Sazabis really popping up favorably in terms of the meta as well, and we got to see that used to a great extent. But again, it's just so many different players are being highlighted right now across multiple roles on all the teams, and so I'm really excited to see how this continues to evolve.
Yeah, and it looks like we're probably going to be getting into these picks and bans. I completely agree with you, though. Even, you know, some of the teams we didn't get to see as much because they won too much, like our 2 winners finals teams. They had some really interesting stuff. Like, just going to this pick and ban, we can talk about the fact that we saw the RX-78 coming out of Team Mafties, which was a pick that we didn't see from too many others. And Quarry, the most popular, or tied for the most popular map, already banned off the bat.
Yeah, and we didn't really get to talk about it, right? When 2 maps really end up becoming a little bit more popular on the other side. That means two other maps tend to become less popular, and that's surprising because it was Flak Fort that ended up with 10 bans and 4 picks yesterday. I don't know if it was even played because there were a few times I believe that Flak Fort ended up going to the third map Decider as well. So hopefully we can see a little bit more of that because it is a bit more tried and true standard. But with Quarry out of the play, we'll see. We still have Thermal Plant up, Mountain R&D, and you know, I don't even want to say the new map name because I feel like that just curses it.
It definitely has cursed it so far. I will say the name. I will curse it for us. Colony Trading Post, of course, the newest map in Season 2 of Gundam Evolution, and one of our favorite maps visually. It just looks so cool. Same thing with Harbor City. Also looks very cool. But we got to see a lot of Harbor City at least. But Colony Trading Post, you know, we've seen it as the deciding match, like you said, of I think 2 separate on-broadcast matches, but it never went to Game 3, which was really unfortunate. Of course, we do tend to see more Game 3s as we get later in the bracket, and we did see some Game 3s yesterday, or we even saw a tiebreaker that ended up going on to oh my gosh, what level was that? I don't know. Lunar, yeah, Colony. Yeah. That's right. So we have a chance. We for sure have a chance, but I just personally would love to see Colony Trading Post, and I know for sure the chat would too.
Yeah, been looking forward to it. It's just because I want to see how teams explore it, how they actually play it, right? Because if we take a look at Harbor City, right? Typically in your pub matches, you're holding in that first corner. Everyone, for some reason, loves to bunch up in that first corner, but we know that in the competitive matches, teams are playing it a lot more differently, a bit more conservatively, and really utilizing the buildings in the back. And so Colony Trading Post, there's still a lot to explore for it. I don't know if anyone, like, damn, as soon as I say it.
You see, that's the problem. When I say the name, I guess it's okay, but as soon as you say it, immediate ban. But yeah, it's unfortunate because obviously we want to see it, but we do know that it is for sure the newest map, and there are a lot of things going on. It's got the sliding doors, it's got a lot of unique angles, so I again think that a lot of these teams maybe just don't want to really try their luck there. I don't know if maybe they've prioritized some of the other maps, but that does mean pretty much everything else is up in the air. We haven't seen a whole lot of thermal plants. We haven't seen, actually, I think maybe we haven't seen thermal plant in general on broadcast. We know, of course, that it was picked a few other times off broadcast. We saw that it was picked at least. I just think we never ended up going there. It was, again, a decider. We've seen some great matches on Underground Command Center, so I do kind of hope that we get a chance to see that one again today.
Yeah, I feel like for a lot of teams that are trying to stay away from Thermal Plant and Mountain R&D in particular, both of those map types for domination, it's just that it takes a certain level of control, right? You can have fights that end up getting away from you, and all of a sudden it's 42% for one side because you end up staggering because no one's calling for the resets and stuff like that. That is a skill set that newer teams need to learn how to do, how to call for a reset, how to call for rotations a little bit earlier, and we got to see the evolution of that on Mountain R&D as well. Some teams, of course, ended up staying a little bit too long for a point. Other teams decide, hey, we still have 20 seconds here, but we're going to go ahead and start making the rotation. Again, the skill sets, that's what you need to learn. And I feel like a lot of teams kind of want to avoid that. So it looks like our first pick is going to be Underground Command Center.
All right. Hey, you know, I was just saying, I mean, we talked about this a lot. We're getting like the weird caster curse as far as maps go. Either we say we want it and we get it, or we say we want it and then they immediately ban it. They're just going to do something. We just have to wait to talk until picks, and then we'll eventually get it. But yeah, I'm loving the Underground Command Center plays today, or I should say this weekend. They've been super, super fun, and it is overall neutral-ish map, right? We've seen some neutral-ish maps. A lot of the destruction missions or the point captures are a little bit more neutral than especially domination maps, which is Thermal Plant as our second pick. And you can see how cool it is here that we can see the actual logos of the teams who picked what. So that will be, of course, IQ choosing Thermal Plant, going for that more chaotic close-up match.
Yeah, and that's going to be a real treat to see. Again, we're seeing a lot of great turn A coming out, and I love turn A on Thermal Plant. It looks like our next ban is going to be Flak Fort, so unfortunately not going to see that, leaving open Mountain R&D and Harbor City. With IQ opting for Thermal Plant, I wonder if Mafty just want to ban out Mountain R&D and send us over to Harbor City for our decider.
Yeah, 2 really polarizing maps to be our final 2 for the decider. Whether they're going to be one of the closest range maps, which it will be, or Harbor City, which we've seen, of course, is like the sniper map. But the decider is going to be Mountain R&D, so this is going to be a pretty domination-heavy set. We've got 2 domination maps and then Underground Command Center, which can be pretty chaotic, at least especially once you get inside that first point. It tends to be pretty close range altogether. We're going to definitely see some brawls this time around, and that's going to be exciting, of course, just based on these teams alone. We've seen that some of the players on I guess they're Team Matthews now. They were previously Team Powerpuff Girls, are very, very good at those close range brawls, you know, Focus and Casino specifically, you know, doing so much AoE damage and being able to really kind of like synergize the timings for all of that AoE damage. It's been very hard to get anything going with like a death ball against them. So maybe they're the ones that are really just feeling good about, I mean, obviously they didn't pick the domination map, but maybe like, okay, we're going to go for some more close range maps. We'll see how the other team can deal with it.
Yeah, and I like, again, with these 3 maps being picked up, these are 3 maps that kind of put the focus on different units in terms of control of the map, right? If we look at Mountain R&D, we're looking at Ashmars really controlling the outer flanks on the A and C side with the utilization of its AoE. If we go over to Thermal Plants, you're looking towards the turn A's along with any kind of brawler composition. If you got Barbados, if you got Exia, those are going to be the pivotal points in compositions. But again, when we take a look at our first map, what was that one again?
First of all, Underground Command Center. So
Underground Command Centers, yeah. Yep. So again, that's going to be another point where it's a different unit that's going to be kind of the pivotal unit in terms of composition. On that first point, we're going to be looking at, of course, our Gym Snipers, which I believe had maybe like a 70-80% pick rate. There was one composition, I believe, one team that decided to opt out for the Gym Sniper on their defensive side, or maybe they might have swapped back onto it. I can't quite remember. But again, 3 maps, 3 different ways to really be able to put the focus on different players.
Yeah, I mean, we did see, of course, some like really heavy specialists with the Gym Sniper last time around on, or I should say yesterday, exactly. But this is a really cool map just that we're starting on Underground Command Center because it is one of the most flexible maps with how you want to play defense on that very first relay. And once you lose that relay, it becomes extremely hectic and you generally go for a little bit more close range stuff. But before that, we see a lot of teams that will they'll all group up on like the hill on the high ground. And then once you push, they'll back up. We see some people that immediately just kind of stay faded back behind the relay or over to the side behind that rock. So they can get these kind of the wide angles on the like whole left side when people start running through the river. We see people that stay a little bit more under the, I guess it's kind of like the little hill right above the high ground, the little cave inside. There's just a bunch of different ways you can actually play this. You can try to hold tighter angles with units like, you know, Pale Rider, or you can try to hold longer angles with things like Gym Sniper. So it's really cool. You know, it's a lot of skill expression, a lot of just how you choose to play as a team. And we'll see if there even is a Gym Sniper player on Team Mafty. And I feel like I kind of want to talk about that. We didn't get a chance to see too much of them. We only saw them on broadcast one time, and they were super dominant. And of course, it wasn't that their opponents were playing badly. It's just that they're an incredibly strong team. So we kind of haven't seen the breadth of what they can bring.
Yeah, I mean, in that matchup, I believe in Mafty versus Tekka Dynasty, there were a few errors on the Tekka Dynasty's part. I imagine, which led towards more towards Mafty's victory than anything else. I think, you know, if Tekka Dynasty did clean that up, that set would have been a lot closer. But it definitely doesn't tell the whole story, right? In that 2-0, it looks like it was a dominant, right? And whenever you see a 2-0, it looks dominant. But there were a few errors that Tekka made that if they cleaned up again, that this could have easily gone to a third map, that we might have actually seen a map number 3 between the 2 teams. So I feel like Tekka Dynasty for themselves right now, they are waiting in the lower bracket finals right now to see who they're going to be facing off against, if it's going to be Mafty or IQ, but they should have learned their lesson from yesterday.
Oh yeah, I think they have for sure. I mean, I know they're not one of the 2 teams that we're about to see, but we will see them later. So I just want to talk about them. They are for sure my pick this weekend of that team that goes down to the losers bracket and then just continues to improve game after game after game. And they are looking 100 times better, I think, in this, I guess, end of bracket area than they were a little bit earlier in the bracket. Maybe just again that getting that tournament experience together as a team. I believe this is their first time that they've entered together as a team. They may have entered the official Gun Evo tournament, but regardless, they're pretty new altogether as a team, and I think they're looking super great. They've earned that 3rd spot for sure, hard-fought battles, but I'm sure they're going to want their rematch. We'll see if they get to get that rematch immediately or if they're going to have to fight through another top team just based on how Matthews and IQ kind of face off in this match. And I feel like we really have no idea. We know that both of these teams are extremely strong. They're both very dominant in their winners semis finals matches, which is all that we really saw from either of them. So again, don't get to see the full breadth of it. We don't get to see like, okay, once this team starts losing, how do they do once they start losing? Because one of these teams is going to start losing at some point. We don't get to see what their like kind of flex picks are if they get up into situations where they do maybe need to switch suits around. A lot of their wins on both sides were really strong, kind of offensively. I know that IQ won a lot of their matches really, really strongly on Mountain R&D just by holding that high ground. So we didn't really get a chance to see them having to retake it that many times. We saw that the Team Mafty kind of game plan was to, I don't want to say death ball, but they ended up death balling because they had so much momentum. So again, we need to see what the flexibility is here once they fight another team that can potentially put them on their back foot, or maybe one of those teams is just going to do that again in winners finals. Who knows?
Mafty definitely did like flex their experience overall, right? And we
Yeah,
talked
yeah.
about it in tournaments past, especially with the Powerpuff Girls rosters. That like you had mentioned, there's always going to be a team that kind of levels up throughout a tournament, and that was the Powerpuff Girls across our last two tournaments. And this is basically the culmination of that. They are showing their experience after three tournaments. What have they learned and what have they developed in that regard? Being able to find like the forward spawns, catching people off on that rotation when they were basically giving up the objective. They were finding a little bit more every single time, and so that's basically what it amounts to. So Mafty, I am definitely expecting a lot of great things for them. I still feel like the skill ceiling is still high, and they haven't reached it quite yet because there's still so much for them to basically learn. Because we have to remember that there's still a lot of teams that haven't returned, a lot of players that haven't returned as well. So it's almost kind of like an equalizer here. But right now, it's Mafty that's still standing on top.
A lot of the players who either couldn't make it for this tournament or weren't able to sign up, but we want to see everybody back really soon. We're all just hoping that things all go really well, because we miss a lot of these players, like obviously like Koseg and Legacy, etc., who all won our previous tournament. But I'm really happy that we're getting so many teams turning out and that everybody's still been fighting super hard for the scene. If any of you want to join, I do believe that we've just opened up the Discord, so !Discord in the chat. It's a really easy place to be able to find out where to sign up for these, and I think it's !Pilot Academy in chat, but again, maybe Craze can help me with that. We do know now that there's another 3 events in the Pilot Academy that are not breakout series events, so there's a ton of events. I think we have like 7 or so lined up, and I don't know all the dates exactly, but it's certainly for quite a while, so this is the perfect time to get into trying to compete. I know the Discord has a channel currently in the server that's for like people who are looking for a team, looking for some people to practice with, maybe even if you just want to try to sub in on some scrims, see how that goes, just get that level of experience. And there's a lot of teams of different levels of experience, so it's definitely something to check out. But hopefully we can get this match started pretty soon. I know that these players are getting the lobby set up. We saw it mostly done pretty soon.
Yeah, and again, it's great to see that we are having all these events coming out as well. I mean, having the one event a month, while I love doing it, I always want more. I always want more. I want to see more competitive Gundam Evolution. The fact that we've had, of course, custom lobbies available since launch as well just makes it easier, and the addition of newer tools, the spectator tool coming in with the pause function coming in as well. I believe they even added on coach slots. I don't know if teams are really utilizing that quite yet. I mean, this is still a burgeoning scene, a newer scene. And so I don't know if we've reached that point where we need the coach slots being utilized, but hey, having that option is fantastic.
Yeah, I want to be a coach for a team. Just go in there, just be like, hey, should have hit your shot. And just talk to the gym sniper, be like, hey, you missed. Aim better. But no, it's super cool. It's super cool that we got all these tools and that we've got all these tournaments. So I'm really excited. And today is, just going to be another great example of just kind of where the level of competition is going to be at for all of these tournaments, at least at the high end, because I feel like our teams have gotten all more consistent over time. We had I don't want to say a little bit more of a disparity between the skill levels of the teams earlier on in the game's life. The game's still pretty young, right? I mean, I don't even remember exactly when it came out. Something about like 6 months-ish ago, which is really, really young for a game like this, especially one that has mobility that people need to get used to and learn how to use at a high level. But now that we're a little bit further in, a lot of these teams and a lot of these players have really played with all of the other really good players, and they've learned things from each other, and they've learned things from these events. So we are getting closer and closer to having these really tough matches in these like grand finals. And for example, we saw in the official Gundam Evolution tournament very recently, we saw the reset happen, which means that there was very much a chance of either team winning, and we could see the same thing potentially happen today where somebody from the losers bracket ends up making it back through and winning, which is not something that's happened so far in any of the breakout series events, but I think we're getting very much closer to that actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, again, we just need more competition, right? If we want to get better players, we need more competition. We already know that the player pool right now, it's like amongst in rank, you're going to run into the same players fairly frequently. And so having more competition just to get everyone better, just to get more eyes on Gundam, to get more players in as well is something that we're all striving for. So I'm really glad again that we're having more tournaments, that we're having this one as well, and that we're also part of the Pilot Academy. Really excited. I've always loved being a part of like the grassroots programs when it comes to any esports that I get involved with. And so I'm super glad that I've got this opportunity here.
Yeah, and just for anybody who isn't as familiar with why we keep talking about the Pilot Academy, just again, while we're waiting for this match to start, let me explain a little bit. So Bandai Namco official Gundam Evo esports, of course, they've been running their Pilot Showdowns, their big tournaments. We're going to have the next one's going to be the third one, right? We've already had two. We had one right at the release of the game, and we had one that happened just about at the start of the year, just a few weeks ago. So those have been $20,000 tournaments, and they're going to continue to be running these tournaments. And each of these events now within this grassroots scene, this Pilot Academy, right, which is what the breakout series is part of with these new other tournaments. I'm not exactly sure what their series name is, but go check them out. All of these will be giving points to the teams based on how many teams have entered, and those points will qualify you guaranteed for the Pilot Showdowns at the end of the season. So you definitely want to be part of that. You don't want to have to fight your way any other way through getting into those spots. You want to be able to just immediately be ready to practice, to know exactly who your teammates are going to be, and then just get that money, because we had a lot of these teams from the breakout series do really well. We've had a lot of these players from the breakout series do really well. Of course, Team Mafty did extremely well. We had a lot of really familiar faces in Team Toto 1010 fans. We've had just everybody was familiar faces pretty much. Not a ton of players that I was just never heard of before or hearing of before. So be sure to sign up for all the Pilot Academy events. You want to get those points. These top three teams are going to be getting those points as soon as we decide who is actually our first, second, and third place. I'm going to look for some updates here. We should check.
Yeah, I mean, it's always great to, of course, reward consistency, and I'm glad that we are able to do that. And with the Pilot Academy, make sure that the teams that are sticking together, that are really, going through thick and thin together, are able to actually secure a spot. I love content creators and I love content creator tournaments, but right now for Gundam Evolution, I want to see a lot more focus being put on to our squads that are, doing everything over here. But it looks like we're just getting a reset on the lobby, and then we will be getting into the map fairly shortly. It is Underground Command Center that will be starting off within this best of three. It is a best of three here in the winners finals between Mafty Did Nothing Wrong and Team IQ. And honestly, what a way to start it off. Again, I love the gym sniper battles that we got to see yesterday. I'm really excited to start it off again this way.
Yeah, and I feel like we are getting to start off a little bit slower, starting off with Underground Command Center. Then, of course, just as a reminder, we're going to be going to two different domination maps. I am suddenly forgetting the order, but for sure one of them is Mountain R&D, and the other one is going to be Thermal Plant. But here we go. We've already got the defense set up. It does look like we're going to see three players on the top of the high ground. The Methods is off a little bit to the side, maybe going to set up a turret in a little bit of a cheeky spot. But we can see the actual team comps coming out, and it's going to include that RX-78.
Yeah, actually, we don't have Gym Sniper coming in. It's going to be Pale Rider coming up from either side, and it looks like fairly similar compositions, except for, the change off with the RX-78, but Devotion is actually running the Methus in opposition of Fusion Blackie's Gundam Unicorn.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like this, being able to see, it looks like we're getting a little bit of the lobby, but being able to see just how the two kind of quote-unquote healing options tend to work against each other. But I do like the fact that you're going to be a little bit more split potentially on the defense here. You hold some different angles, but it looks like they're just going to be falling all the way back on the side of Team IQ. And that relay is already going to get picked up. Nobody even standing on it to try and contest it. We do see at least one player moving up, but I'm not sure it's going to be able to actually hold them off.
Yeah, it looked like someone triggered the trap card of Casino there. They were able to pick up a kill with the landmines going down, and you can see how instantly they pivot. Team IQ do to try and push forward, find a few more stackers. David is there on the front line, but he's not going to overextend, and he will back away. So the first minute already going down here as Team Mafty are looking an opening just to try and get this waypoint. They will go ahead and flip that for now as Enders backs away.
Yeah, they so far have not given up too much, though. This is pretty nice. Despite the fact that the relay is getting taken, it's just constantly getting retaken over and over. We are going to see Mr. Big Large going down, and there's going to have to be a little bit of a run back there. But, oh, just a huge chunk here on Chaotic. Not quite able to fully get that knock, but there's going to be just so little health on the side of Team Mafty. They need to find some healing. You can see that Gundam Unicorn is coming to play so well. We're seeing the slow regeneration on every single player on that team, but they are going to eventually give up that relay, and this is going to be a push forward.
Now, Arrow, he does have his Super Napalm at the ready here, and so for the team side of Team Mafty, they have to be careful in how they approach this. They do not want to try and clump up and push through this midsection. They need to try and pick them apart, maybe go for the flanks. You can see that Arrow is actually keeping them at bay. They've got 3 members over here going for that peek now, almost gets the knock onto one. But they are not going to be able to get that critical damage quite yet. Nice little stun there onto Exponent, but you can see that they are playing super scared of this RX and RX-78.
Yeah, I mean, such a cool suit to see. I love it. One of my favorites to use, and just to see at a high level, it can do so much damage. But oh, Exponent's going to be going down. The Screaming Nib is coming out, going to be chunking several of those members, but there's not a huge follow-up, so I'm not sure exactly how much they're going to be able to get off of that. It does seem like Devotion went down, but not that much else for a Screaming Nimbus, which of course can be a huge G maneuver.
It's answered in kind, though. Screaming Nimbus from the other side here, as it looks like Mafty finally find their opening, and IQ might have just been a little bit reticent, a little bit hesitant to utilize their G maneuvers for this hold, and so that's going to create a huge opening now for them to get the Mega Charge down. This is a long run back here on Underground Command Center. You can see now they're going to be able to set up for the defensive hold on the G maneuvers for that retake. They do have focus with the Ashmar punch. They do have the funnels to utilize as well, so a lot of aerial denial with those 2 G maneuvers.
Yeah, and you can see Casino, Enders, and David all pushing through the side over here, and this is going to be a really great attempt at a retake. Most of the team of Team IQ going down, Mr. Big Large, X-Men, Fusion Black, all falling to that really well-coordinated push, and that should be a disarm on the Mega Charge. I mean, about 5 seconds ago, they were just so quick with all of that, and they're going to be retaking this more offensive hold position, maybe try to take the relay if they can. Not the easiest thing in the world to do.
You know, it was such a great call being made by Team IQ as well. As soon as they got their initial picks, focus was instantly on the disarm there. Now, they do force them back. Enders is the only one with the G maneuver available in this fight. Chaotic, though, has worked his way up 95%, 97%. Just a few more daggers. He will have that Trans Am to utilize here. And with the way teams just naturally clump up, it could be huge. We'll see if the Hades can counter it.
Oh, Hades is a great counter for so many different things, but oh, it looks like, I don't even know what that's done. That must have been a Hyper Hammer, I'd have to assume. And it looks like Arrow just barely escaping, probably pulling up that shield over on the side. Invictus, though, oh, is going to be backing up this charge. Oh, the Trans Am. There's a huge push here for B. This Trans Am could do so much damage. Oh, but just has to back up. Gets very little mileage out of it. Despite that, though, David, Arrow, and Casino all going down. This is going to be kind of a 3v3 here on the point. Let's see if we end up seeing some attempts to plant.
Mega Charge does go down, but it's a little bit too late, and so they will be able to get the defuse there. Not too much progress made by Team Mafty in that one. That is the trouble that teams can find themselves in. It was a great counter engage by, I believe it was Casino. When we had that Trans Am being popped, instantly you saw that Screaming Nimbus being used by, I would say, one of our best Dom players, Casino, there just for the counter engage.
Yeah, Casino is always going to be one of my favorite players to watch. Maybe my favorite player to watch. I mean, Powerpuff Girls just in general was, I think I called my favorite team to watch. So a lot of the players that have held over from that just continue to be some of my favorite players to watch. Of course, we've seen pop-offs from, I want to say, almost half of the players in this lobby. We've seen huge pop-offs just within the past like 2 tournaments or so, or including this current tournament. So this is going to be one of those Twitter clip matches, I think, where we're going to see some huge, amazing counter pushes. But yeah, Casino, of course, tends to get quite a bit of damage and is so good at those reaction G maneuvers where the moment that we see another G maneuver come out, all of a sudden, boom, Screaming Nimbus. It's like less than a second, just a few frames of reaction time, just incredible stuff.
And no surprises there we got to see in the after action report. It was both Merle and Casino, our Dom players respectively from either side, that were topping the damage scores. And that makes sense, of course, right? Teams are playing a little grouped, a little clumped up, and Hey, what does Dom like? Well, groups that are clumped up together. You get maximum value off that splash damage from the primary fire. So they do have the highest damage amongst both on both their teams so far. And so the Doms are super important. For Casino in particular, I love the way that he was setting up his mind throughout the defensive side. We saw when they were trying to fight over that waypoint that he was able to find multiple picks with that one. But here they go. IQ now on the offense.
Yeah, and once again, just going for this really heavy push on the high ground. That tends to be kind of the go-to strategy now. And I do love the fact that every single team is really ready to fall back when they need to in those positions. But we do see already a taking of the waypoint and a huge retreat here. And Exponent actually going down on the side of Team IQ. So is Invictus. This is going to be a huge stagger. Just those two suits alone are going to be really core units. They might actually get an opportunity here for Mafty to get this plant if they can get maybe one or two more picks.
Another pick off from Enders there as it looks like they are getting onto the point. Now, is it going to be point A or for point B? Exponent is back with the respawn. Merle finds one. That's David going down. They do get the res, though, with the help of that Methus chain res, and so they are full back up as a 6. No one has a G maneuver quite yet, but it's Arrow once again who is topping the G maneuver charge, basically, and he's at 78%. It's on point A, and that super napalm is so strong for being able to hold this point.
Yeah, and once this point gets planted, it is very, very hard to get a full retake unless there is a full near full team wipe. So this is going to be a really tough situation. We can see there's a fight going on in the background. Exponent going down, Arrow going down in the tray. There's an attempt here to disarm the mega charge. Not going to go off. Maybe a little bit of I don't know, a risky attempt. You really had to hope that nobody was paying attention to you doing that. But great shots, and that's going to be nearly a full team wipe. Almost everybody on IQ going down, and that will be essentially a team wipe on Team IQ.
Oh no, that was so close. They actually got the defuse on the Mega Charge there, and so now they have to go for the replant. It was so close. It came down to 1 second, I think. If Casino had just peaked just a split second earlier, he could have actually stopped that. But they are back on point A. Now there's 15 seconds. They have all the G maneuvers to utilize that can just stop and stun someone up who's going for that. So they just need to wait things out. 8 more seconds remaining. They got the Ashmar punch, screaming Nimbus along with the energy cable, and that should be it. That's going to be Team IQ taking map number 1.
Ooh, Team Mafty, actually. The name's backwards. We're aware, chat. Thank you so much for helping us out with that. But yeah, we're of course trying out some different things here on the spectator client, and we're super visual checking through Discord calls before, so we're all just figuring this out. You know, this is the first broadcast that we've used these, and we've got actually a team of observers. So huge shout out to our entire team of observers this time around, especially for today. So we're going to be, you know, trying out some new things, some new camera angles, and we did get this chance to see. Yeah, that was just such a dominant game.
Yeah, really unfortunate that it happened. I'm sorry about that, guys. You know, Casters just says exactly what he sees on screen. So yeah, anyhow, still, it was a great hold again. You got to see right here the kind of experience that came through, right? Being able to really layer and have the right G maneuvers available for that final hold, even though there was a small slip up and where they allowed the disarm to happen, well, they had better tools to make sure that it didn't happen a second time.
It's such a hard map, honestly, to be able to, I mean, which I think I actually said this twice within that short amount of time, but it's true. It's very hard to actually get the disarm on the mega charge on that first bomb point. Even if they plant on A, it is really difficult because you can kind of hold this safer angle within the double hallway right before A, or you can hold some wider angles back around where you kind of circle around the left side. Or if they plant on B, then there's just this entire hallway of death, and you are choke pointed into one basically single entrance. So whether it's A or B, it can be very, very difficult to get the full disarm. And we saw the fact that Team Mafty was able to get that even when there was the plant is very impressive. Then they were able to show off why it can be so hard to actually get that. And so far, we've seen Team Mafty, I would say, be pretty decisively dominant through their games previous in this tournament, or their single set previous in this tournament. And it's looking like they're trying to do the same thing here in the winners finals. It's a great start for them, but they're going to have to move now to, of course, a domination mission.
And it's going to be 2 dominations missions in a row. And I believe it was IQ's pick to actually send us on over to Thermal Plant the first time around. And with that final ban, they actually sent us on over to Mountain R&D as well.
Yeah, so double domination coming up. This was a great little test, right? It was great to see kind of how these teams played in a more like neutral position, but now we're gonna have to see how well they brawl, and it still just looks like, I mean, the entirety of Team Mafty is just so good at brawling, right? They made that coordinated push. That, I mean, just looking at that point where they actually did get that disarm on the Mega Charge, they had a coordinated, just a 3-man push. It wasn't even the full team altogether, but they had David, of course, leading the pack with the Sazabi using the shield. They had Focus and Casino behind with just all of that AoE damage, able to clear out the majority of the team just by themselves, as some of the other members were, of course, doing a lot of damage, but some of them were still respawning. Some of them were in positions to check other angles to make sure that nobody was going to stop the disarm. And it just, the coordination looks so good when they're in those tight quarters, when they need to make those plays. So I feel like this is still going to be a very tough road for IQ, even though they are, of course, amazing team in their own right.
Yeah, and also I just want to shout out Arrow. I think Arrow was doing a fantastic job. You were pointing it out, the RX-78 pick. I would say one of the most surprising picks coming out, even though we do have Sazabi's in. We have to note that there was a huge nerf, I would say, coming in, almost like a 25% nerf across the board for the RX-78, right? His shield went from 1,000 HP now down to 400. His Hyper Hammer, a 3-second increase on the cooldown as well. So the uptime is just not quite there, but he has been making it work, and his presence has been known. We have to note that across those 2 rounds, or well, on that one map, he was one of the first units to have that G maneuver available for his squad. And so he's doing amazing work so far on that RX-78.
Yeah, that suit can have so much impact if you are using it in the correct situations. It can be, I mean, it's funny, right? Because you'd assume, especially the fact that it's really like the OG Gundam, that it is the kind of title Gundam, that it would be a little bit more straightforward. But even though it looks straightforward at a glance, there are so many unique situations that you have to be ready for to use it. It has, of course, just a really high DPS weapon. If you can land headshots, if you can just land all of your shots, it's got great range. But the Hyper Hammer is not something that you can just throw out and just be like, oh, here's just a little bit of extra damage, or here's a little bit of a stun, because you really need it to counter a lot of these situations. It can stop G maneuvers. We've seen it completely shut down G maneuvers. We've seen it knock people into the water. We've seen it stop people that are trying to flank. You know, we've seen Exias that get hit by one Hyper Hammer into one headshot, and that can be it. And then the biggest thing to me is the G maneuver, of course, itself. You know, that grenade, it can be the best G maneuver in the game in certain situations, or the worst in a lot of situations. You see a lot of players just throw it out and just say, hey, you know what? I'm going to throw this right in the middle of the enemy team, and then it's going to explode and it's going to kill them all. But that's not how that works. The good teams, they will immediately focus it down. All it takes is one person to focus it down, has no life. But if you know the angles in every single competitive map, you can find corners that are just literally, there's no line of sight to where you throw the grenade, and it still has the area of effect you need. You can throw it, up above or below them. There's been times where people have thrown it down. I mean, I know this isn't a competitive map, but if you look at like Canyon Base, you can go all the way below kind of the point, throw it there, and then it'll still hit above. Or even the point A on where was it? Quarry, pointing on Quarry, in the very first bomb site, you can throw it below, and then nobody can disarm for a little bit. So it can be just an amazing G maneuver, and it's all about like how creative you can be as far as your placement. So I love to see the good players use it.
Or it can be like Underground Command Center, where you can actually get both of the actual plants on the first half of the map with it. And then, of course, if you throw it from above, no one can actually shoot it from below. If you throw it below, no one can shoot it from above. But yeah, it's great to see the RX-78 back in. We got to see a little flavors of it back in our first event, and then kind of fell out of favor as a lot more focus was being put on to our Pale Rider players, right? But it looks like right now it's less about really allowing your Pale Rider to succeed. There are so many more threats, I would say, across the board that it's really more just of just every player on the team actually contributing for this, and no one is receiving that focus, like that extra special attention to make sure a team succeeds. It feels like so many almost anyone on the squad, on the 6-man team, can actually have that kind of playmaking potential.
Yeah, regardless of what your quote unquote role is. But especially, with a lot of the changes, of course, I feel kind of sad that we didn't get a chance to see the cool spectator client feature in the last season, where you get to see the actual damage that each person does within a game, right? You can, press tab in any sort of custom game now in the spectator client and see people's their current eliminations, their current deaths, and their current damage. So I feel like if we had a chance to see it before it was implemented back in the previous season, we would have seen pretty much most of the time the really, really good Pale Riders topping the charts, you know, like Shazam or Lissig or something like that. And we would see like, okay, yeah, it's mainly this, like they're doing probably like 30k damage a game or something like that. Probably, I mean, depending, of course, on the map and whatever happens. But now when we get a chance to look at them, a lot of the times the technical suits that are leading in damage, of course, it gets a little bit more because of AoE damage, but we see stuff like Ashmar sometimes leads the pack, or sometimes Dom, or it can really be anything. You know, we've seen just so many different people in so many different suits get up there on that damage leaderboard, which of course doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? There's a lot of bad damage that can be healed up, but it's an interesting little thing that we weren't able to see before, and it does feel to me like, really, like you said, any suit can be a significant contributor of the damage of the team currently.
Yeah, like I do finally, I love that, like we're kind of moving away from that Pale Rider meta. I love Pale Rider, of course. It's a fantastic mobile suit when players are getting introduced into a 6v6 hero shooter, right? It is just that kind of, hey, bread and butter, everyone knows how to play this. He's got a nice gun, he can sprint, and he's got a nade, whatever. But now that a lot of other units are being kind of put on the spotlight, I love that we're able to highlight Ashmar plays, highlight Barbados plays, highlight Dom plays, and highlight even the Sazabis there. David did a fantastic job, I would say, in that Sazabi versus Sazabi play on their offense there for Mafty. You know, he went in for a very aggressive, I believe it was axe into the charge, and you don't typically get to see that in a lot of these matchups right now, because a lot of our Sazabi players are playing this, you know, a bit more on the neutral, where they're waiting for someone else in the team to find that first pick, and then you charge in. But he is taking a lot of the action into his own hands, and it looks like we do have map number 2 ready.
All right, and again, this is going to be domination. This is going to be, I believe, thermal plant. Yeah, so this is going to be the first time that we're actually seeing this on broadcast. Of course, a very, very chaotic map when it gets to these close-up fights, but I really like this. This is probably my favorite of the domination maps. We're going to be starting off with B, the most neutral point here. Again, the high ground is going to be everything, and yeah, the Barbados from Chaotic.
Well, Chaotic is actually busting that one out, but we also have a Zakutu ranged coming out. We didn't actually get to talk about it. Zakutu melee is banned, but not ranged, and it looks like David is going to be able to charge in, take out Merle, and that is huge. We were talking about the damage contribution coming out from our Dom players. The first Dom to go down, that is Merle, and that's Mafty now here on point B, taking charge.
Yeah, this is very similar to a lot of the Mountain R&D kind of high ground situations, which is why you see Casino, Focus, Profi all on this top spot right here. I do assume that Profi's probably going to be sneaking around, trying to get some flanks. We can actually see the POV right here. This can be such a nasty suit on this map. The buffs to Zakutu range were actually very strong. Its DPS is unbelievable if you can land your shots from close range.
You can see, though, he is actually getting a lot of really good cooldowns down, and really also ask for is that smoke screen. He gets the CC out from the Gundam Unicorn, creates a lot of havoc in the back line. Now, they did flip it for IQ just a little bit. They get 9%, but it's still Team Mafty basically leading the charge. Merle almost down once more, as Mafty have complete control over the rafters.
Yeah, this is just going to be such a hard spot to fight from, and we're going to be moving over to C, so it looks like there's already going to be a little bit of a transfer over. There wasn't any huge commitment team wipes on this first point, but C can be a little bit of a skirmish point, right? Both the high and the low ground at the same time you have to deal with, and we can see some really disjointed team fights.
Yeah, this is one of the weird points where you can see maybe a team gets 5% total, right? Usually you're able to get like 43%, but with the way that you can contest on the high ground and on the low ground over at point C, means that a lot of times if you don't get a clean fight, that it's just contested the entire time. That's unlocked right now, but Exponent has gone down. That's Casino winning out that duel. That's why you don't try to take the 1v1 versus the Dom. Focus now here in the back line. We'll get that pick onto Invictus, but it's IQ that was actually able to get that point first, but it will instantly get swapped over to Mafty.
Yeah, they keep getting a little bit of an opportunity, but just not quite enough. And yeah, there we go. We're going to see actually all two more suits going down. Fusion Black and Meryl both going down to the funnels from that G maneuver out of David. And yeah, David, I mean, I've seen the copy pastas in the chat. David has just been such a monster throughout this tournament so far. That's been really this kind of like this trio of this like core units that kind of travel together a little bit more on the side of Mafty. But here we go. We're going to see the G maneuver getting popped. We're going to see the Trans Am, but we'll see if there can be any kills from it.
Oh, Enders ends up taking himself out with his own nade, so that's, I guess, a 1v1. David getting chased, actually chasing down Exponent, who has that Transam, and what a ballsy play. He gets the backup of focus, and so they will basically get the full percentage there on on C, as we swap back on over for B. 3 G maneuvers still available for Team Mafty. We're coming up onto 4 now for Team IQ. Do we have Screaming Nimbus getting popped now? Chaotic getting chased down, and it's going to be Focus actually there in the back line. Merle trying to create some chaos with the Screaming Nimbus, but now as it runs out, he is left in front of David's shotgun, and he gets taken out.
Oh, it just ended like a foot away. That was the perfect spacing, just sitting there, get a complete whiff, and then the full punish. That was amazing. I don't know if that was intentional or if it was like, I just don't have anywhere else to go. Let's just sit here on the health pack, but I cannot believe that ended right before it connected. I don't know if it would have made that much of a difference just because there were 2 suits kind of in that little area, but here we go, 82%. We are going to see, oh, actually we see it captured by IQ. It looks like even though we had most of Team Mafty around, they just weren't there to be actually on the point.
Yeah, Unicorn G maneuver has been popped, I believe. No picks quite yet. Devotion getting close to finding one. He is dropping down low, but he does have the passive heals. The Hades being utilized there, but it looks like he'll only be able to find one. There we go, trading back as the point will be swapping on over. It looks like it is going to be extra time now. Ender's dropping down, and it's going to be Mafty getting the first round here on Thermal Plant.
Yeah, with a pretty strong showing once again, although, you know, there's a chance that somebody gets on here and waits forever, but no, not quite. We saw the Ashramar trying to land, but not quite in time, and this is now going to be match point for Mafty to make it into grand finals. They just need to win one more round, and they are looking really strong to do so. It felt like they were just in the dominant position most of the time. They were holding the high ground, I think a little bit stronger than IQ, and we know that IQ is particularly good at playing these domination missions because we've already seen them be pretty dominant in one of them. Of course, it was on Mountain R&D Lab, but in their winners semifinals match.
And look at that damage spread. It's pretty even across the Mafty squad. Of course, it's going to be Casino leading the charge with 14K, but 3 of his other squad mates, David, Focus, and Enders, all over 10K. Profi just narrowly missing out there by about 28 damage, and it was only Devotion who wasn't able to. But I mean, he's on the Unicorn. It's fine. We get it. You're getting the heals off for the team, so it's fine. So it's just, you can see the kind of contribution that's coming out. It's fairly equal across the team.
Yeah, that's what's so strong, I think, about Team Mafty is that every single person on their team is such a gigantic threat. Regardless of where they're at any given time, they're just always doing damage, every single one of them. That's why it's so hard to get into these like high positions against them, these high ground positions, is that they just do not let you run up there for free. Their focus fire is amazing, and that's going to be a huge flame grenade.
Oh man, they try to put a lot of focus on making sure that they get onto the high ground first, but you can see that it was Casino starting things off. He spams the angle as they enter, and they already took 1-2 direct connects before they even are able to peak that high ground. And so this is going to be a team fight going well in the favor of Mafty as point B unlocks. And of course, they will have control over it first.
Yeah, that's just continuing their streak of domination. Mr. Big Large will be going down in the background, and that's going to be a little bit of a stagger. Team IQ now going to have to wait for that respawn or kind of go for a 5-person push, but we are just not seeing that many good opportunities for them to really take control. It looks like there already might be a little bit of a fight for C. There's a lot of people over on the right side of the map. I'm not sure if it's just an attempt to push this high ground or if they are thinking, you know what, maybe we should just already get in position. You can see how many people are pushing up this particular ramp.
Oh man, they're just feeding in one by one. And at this point, honestly, you're just giving away G maneuver charge over to the Mafty side. You can see Profi is actually at 78% towards his G maneuver. Of course, it is Zaku 2 range, one of the fastest charging G maneuvers in the game right now. And it can be a huge game breaker, especially here on the tight quarters of Thermal Plant. So you don't really want him to do that, but hey, they do finally put a stop to him. He's been in that backline the entire time, but if you take your eyes off of any member of Mafty like Casino, he will find a pick. Now we are swapping on over to point C.
Yeah, and already we're going to see a ton of Team Mafty just sitting in the very furthest part of Point C. They're controlling this high ground once again. David still just leading the charge every single time. Focus getting the flank. They're just everywhere. They're all over this point. There's just not been an opportunity for IQ to really regroup and fight as a team. Again, they're going to need to sit and wait. The point is just barely unlocking. This is without a doubt going to go to Mafty. Finally, David going down, but there's just still so many people down on the side of IQ. Even Devotion still just using that G maneuver to continue dominating when they only have 5 people on their team for this fight.
And at this point, I think for this round, Mafty have only lost out on 3 units. I could be counting this one wrong, but I think Mafty have only lost out on 3 units across these 2 points. You can see now it is going to be IQ actually making that swap off, making the rotation so early on. There's still 30 seconds remaining before it changes on over to point B. And then you have to remember, there's another 20 seconds before it even unlocks.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough fight, and we're already seeing just so much coordination here on the push from C to B from Team Mafty, where we almost saw them get a pick there on Merle, but Merle does manage to get out. We see Chaotic going down. Chaotic has not really, I think, been able to find the moments on this map, even though it's quite a good map. There's the Screaming Nimbus just to start the hold here, just to push everybody off the high ground that they possibly can, and that is going to be Mr. Big Large going down once again.
Yeah, and there's no point of trying to set up early when all it takes is one Screaming Nimbus to completely disrupt the defensive line there. And just mows him down. 92.3%. Mafty only need 7.7 to finish it off to secure themselves top 2 and the grand finals. Just a moment, the point is going to unlock, but they've got the Hades available. They've got the Ashtamar punch. David is getting close to the funnels as well.
Yeah, just to add insult to injury here, but this is looking to be a 100% win. Although Focus finally going down, they've just traded Ashmar for Ashmar. This is going to be the best opportunity I think that they have, and actually they do retake. It will not be a perfect round at the very minimum. They are holding this down near spot, and that's actually going to work really well. Fusion Black with the G maneuver from the Unicorn, and that is going to at least be able to take down David as well. So this core now of Mafty has been somewhat split up. They are going to have 30 seconds until it shifts to see this. Will not be the final point guaranteed here. It will not just be a 100% hold, but that is actually going to be kind of unfortunate, because if you're Mafty now, you could just kind of preemptively walk over. They are pushing this high ground though.
Yeah, the scary part, though, you have to realize in that fight was that it was 4 G maneuvers to the 2. Mafty only had the Hades and I believe 1 more, the Ashmore punch available, while they had to utilize 4 G maneuvers just to get that team fight win. Now here in the neutral, it's been all Mafty. David finds a huge pickup into Invictus during this rotation. Now we're going back on over to point C. It's all going to come down to Chaotic. He will have that Barbados G maneuver available, but he's got to be careful in how he utilizes it, right? People can try and kite away from it. Actually, never mind. He just goes down. It's Casino with the beam ray taking him out. 2 G maneuvers available now. Zaku 2, he does have that Heat Axe ready. Devotion as well with that Gundam Unicorn, but it doesn't even look like they're going to need it as the point unlocks. There is no one from the IQ side to even contest.
Yeah, just that great usage of G maneuver is going to be it. They popped the perfect ones right at the end, preventing the other team from even using it. So IQ will be going down, and Mafty will be the first team in game. They are looking near undefeatable this tournament.
Both on Underground Command Center, and of course they're on Thermal Plants. They looked absolutely stellar in terms of their G maneuver economy. They were doing such a fantastic job of just making sure that they weren't overutilizing them, right? They only used as many as they needed to win the team fight. You can see that it was just the experience. The experience, it looks like, really trumping everything else.
Yeah, I mean, they've competed together as a team, but what we saw from them in their winners semifinals match earlier, I mentioned yesterday, I was like, they just look like they have zero hesitation. They know where they want to be. They know what they want to be doing. They're not like, okay, should we push here? Should we not push here? Should we commit to this? It just seems like everything's natural. And we did get a chance in a previous tournament to listen to some of the Powerpuff Girls, which is of course half that team, comms, and they were so calm. You know, there are a lot of players that have played together for a long time. There are players like, for example, like Casino, that have been playing, been playing FPSs since like Unreal Tournament like 20 years ago, which is of course why he's so good with the Rockets. But so there's this level of this we don't have to worry about things, this confidence, this experience, and it always shines through with this team. And this is just looking to be such an incredible team. IQ, they found some good moments, but they were just short slightly a few times, right? Like on the first, I guess, round of this previous game, they managed to take almost every single point one time, but then they just lost it pretty immediately. So I think if they can figure out how to kind of hold these high grounds a little bit better, maybe change up their team comp slightly, they'll be able to get a lot more mileage in those rounds. But they're going to first now have to fight through another team in the lower bracket, which of course is going to be the Tekka Dynasty team.
And that's a matchup that we haven't seen yet. We have to remember that it was Bozos that, it was Mafty that ended up knocking down IQ. Or excuse me, I'm getting this all wrong. It was Mafty that ended up knocking down Tekka Dynasty, right? So this is not a matchup that we have seen so far. All right, now again, power levels are so hard to basically kind of scout in this region. I thought this was going to be a lot closer between Mafty and IQ, but it was not that in any way.
Yeah. Mafty, for sure the team to beat today, but we've got 2 more matches, of course, to see who is going to officially be the champion. We'll see who gets that rematch up against Mafty, because when we come back after this short break, we are going to have Tekka Dynasty taking on IQ for that grand final spot. Don't go anywhere.